What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ty from Ty Drives, and this is the 2022 Volvo S60 B5 Momentum. In this video, we're going to take a look at all of the features on this car, starting on the outside, making our way under the hood, and then starting off with the storage space in the trunk, moving forward to the rear seats, and taking a look at what the front seats have to offer, and pretty much everything in between. So really going to do a good job in giving you a good look at this car, and make sure you stay tuned for the end of the video, because we're going to be taking this GoPro out of my hands and strapping it to my head, and we're going to go for a test drive on this car. I'll give you driving impressions and all of that good stuff. Before we get started with everything, I wanted to extend a thank you to Valenti Volvo Cars in Watertown, Connecticut for giving me this car to video. And we're going to start things off with the headlamps, which are full LED regardless of what trim level you get, and they come as standard. Now, as part of the climate package, you get those little square cutouts in the bumper, and those are headlamp washers. We also get fog lamps on this car, LED of course, and parking sensors that run the span of the front bumper. Now for the Momentum trim like we have here, look at all of the blacked out elements on this car. It really kind of looks like the appearance of an R design. Now for 22, there's a little bit of updates going on with this car, mainly powertrain updates, and we'll go through those just in case you were wondering if there's anything new. However, you have a nice long sloping hood with some creases that go towards the side, and we have these very beautiful optional 19-inch wheels. Really neat sort of spokes in the center, and then kind of machine face on the face of the wheel. So again, these are optional on the Momentum trim. And I kind of like that every trim of this car, so the Momentum, which is kind of the base, the R design, which is the sporty, and the Inscription, which is the luxury, you have two different wheel choices to choose. You can see that surrounding the windows and on the mirrors is all gloss black. We have a double pane sunroof up top with the shark fin antenna. We also have this smart key entry, so there's a little pad right next to where my finger is. Press that touch sensitive pad, it'll lock all the doors, and just reach behind the handle to unlock. Moving back to the mirrors, you have the blind spot alert, and you also have turn signals up there too. I really do like these optional wheels, and you know what? I really even like the standard wheels on the Momentum trim. Around the wheel arches, you have these kind of indentations too, kind of cut out. That's pretty cool looking. Wrapping around back, we also have full LED tail lamps back here. So the tail lights, turn signals, brake lights, everything all LED. We have parking sensors that run the span of the bumper. We also have a pretty cool looking diffuser with integrated exhaust pipes and some black elements back here. Really good looking car, front and rear, especially with this denim blue color. I think the black accents go very nice with this color. We have a trunk popper and reverse camera under there. And we also have the B5 all-wheel drive. So you might remember the Volvo powertrains used to start with a T, but now most of them start with a B, and that means electrification. We'll get just into that in just a minute. But what do you guys think of the looks on the exterior of this car? I think you guys know my thought. It's a pretty good looking car. So, a little bit more about that electrification. Under the hood of the S60, just like the XC60 for 2022, which we also did a video on, check my channel, this receives a mild hybrid powertrain as standard. So in the XC60 you get the B5 or B6, and then you also have the T8 In this car, we get the B5 and the T8, so it kind of skips over the B6. What that means is with this car that has the B5, it's a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4 with a little bit of an electric motor helper, and that produces 260 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. So pretty good numbers, and it definitely moves this car along just fine. Now, when you start this car up, there really is no sound of a starter like cranking the motor over. It's just, the motor just starts. And that's primarily what the electric motor does. It aids in the stop-start features or turning the engine over. Pretty good idea, puts less stress on the motor, and does give you a little bit more fuel economy. Alright, so cargo area for the S60 can be accessed by just pressing the button on the key fob or the button underneath the lip on the trunk lid, or there's also a button on the interior. Now, this being a sedan doesn't have a whole lot of room, but it is still pretty roomy for the size of the car. Take a look at the width of the opening, that's pretty good. Also, the height too is pretty good for a sedan, I have to say. As you can see in there, the seats fold down at a 60-40 split, and then you also have a small trunk pass-through. This car has the protection package, which gives you the all-weather liner for the floors and the mat for the trunk. And once you lift that up, you can see they give you a spare tire, and there's also some illumination right over here. That's pretty much it back here. And to close the trunk, you just grab this handle right here and close it right on down. Alright, we could start off the interior portion of the video with the rear seats. Now, this has what Volvo calls the blonde interior, and truthfully, it's more of a really light gray or off-white interior. It looks really good with the exterior color. As far as materials on the door, though, they are pretty grade A. So pretty, so soft to the touch materials up here, soft to the touch materials down there, and leatherette on your armrest. You have the lock unlock, nice door handles, and the button for the windows. We have a couple of speakers on the door. Harman Kardon speakers are available on this car for a little bit of an extra cost. Alright, so we have a nice center armrest that folds down with cup holders, and you can see the access to the pass-through. We also have buttons right here to release the rear seat. So the one, they kind of electronically release the seat so you could fold them down. It also folds the headrest down, and the seat comes down pretty much flat, so you have more cargo room. Now, I adjusted the front seat for a normal driving position for myself, and I am right at 5'10". So getting back here, it's a little bit snug, but really not too bad. Definitely all right for shorter journeys. Pretty much my feet are where they're going to be at, and there's only a couple inches of legroom back here. But the good thing is you kind of sit down low like this in the seat, which makes it very comfortable for where my back is resting, and also the bottom of the seat. That's one thing that Volvo always does very well, is comfort seats, not only at the front, but for the rear. Pretty large drivetrain hump for this car, so you definitely can fit a third person back here, but in a pinch. You have heated seats back here and 2 USB-C chargers. Nice design for the rear seats too. We have the LED illumination and grab handles. And next, we could check out the driver's seat. Very much the same design on the driver's door, but obviously a few less buttons, or a few more buttons rather. Same materials up here as well. You have two-person memory seats for the driver. And you also have all the window controls and power folding mirrors and the power child locks for the rear. That's pretty cool. A bit more storage up here, so you have some down below. And also another couple of speakers on the door. I absolutely love the natural wood grain to this car, and you can find it throughout the interior, which I really like. You have a gauge dimmer here and the trunk release. You also have the tilt telescoping lever right up here that you could see. The hood release is off to this side against the wall, and the pedals are down there. So on the Momentum, you can choose 3 different sort of colors, I guess you could say. You can get sort of this textile plaid sort of cloth material, which is absolutely so cool, and I wish this car kind of had it, because I definitely would have shown that off to you. You can get the blonde leatherette or the black leatherette seats. Full powered, of course, with the 2-way lumbar. Alright, let's hop in and see what else the interior of this S60 has to offer. So here's the key for the S60 and pretty much all the other Volvos in this era. We have the lock, unlock, trunk release, and the panic alarm on the other side. You have a little switch here you can move over to, and that kind of takes apart the key, and there's a physical key on the inside in case you need that. But we have switch button start instead of the push button start, which is pretty cool. And listen to that. You don't hear the typical starter, the cranking over of the starter, which is pretty interesting. The first time I got in one of these, the motor just kind of turned on, with no starter sound or anything like that. But take a look at that steering wheel. You have the 2 different colors, like the blonde, like the seats, and then black, kind of where your hands mostly touch. So that's pretty cool. As far as functionalities go, we have the adaptive cruise control over here, and sort of all your media controls. So the up-down controls your volume for the media, and the back and forth for the tracks. But it also doubles kind of multi-function. So if you press the page button within the screens over there, you can use these same buttons to control the screen up there. So that's pretty cool. And you also have voice commands on the steering wheel. Now behind the steering wheel, a couple stalks. All of your lighting controls up here, including your automatic high beams, are there. Front and rear fog lamps and the turn signals. And you also have your wipers to the other side. We have a very familiar gauge cluster in this car, so pretty much all of these screens are still kind of current generation Volvo. However, the XC60 and the XC40 Recharge have the new Google-based system, so just something to keep in mind. I personally don't mind it because this is the Volvo system that I am used to and that I actually like more than the new system. So with that being said, I think it's a pretty good thing that they still have the old, I shouldn't say old, but the older style screens. Now, taking a look up here, not totally configurable, but you can get the nav screen in the center. Kind of the gauges will move a little bit farther apart and shrink a little bit. And when you have a destination set on your navigation, it will pull up a map and kind of show you where to go, so that's pretty cool. You have your speedometer and tachometer with the fuel gauge down below, which we're running pretty low on fuel. But as I shown you earlier, you can kind of press this pages button and it'll give you some various trip information there, and you can just use the buttons to scroll through. You can also get media, kind of change your different sources, and then also what your phone and navigation are doing, like I said before. Upper dash has a very nice soft to the touch material, and you also have a pretty big speaker up there, center channel speaker. Again, take a look at this dashboard layout. Very beautiful. Air vents and the wood is very nice as well. We have built-in navigation with this car, which is pretty cool. I believe this car has the climate package and the premium package, so that's pretty cool. So it's not a fully loaded sort of momentum. You can also add the advanced package on top of that stuff, but this one is sort of a more conservatively optioned car. But it does come with built-in navigation, which is really cool. That's part of the premium package. We have the radio screen down here. As you can see, the Sirius XM is activated. We go to a now playing screen, and then we can also switch the sources right down there. So that's pretty cool. We also have the manual tuning, which you go back and forth. We have our phone screen down here as well, and then kind of a home screen right there. Different fuel economy graphs and things like that, which is pretty neat. We can also swipe to either side, and you get a couple of driving modes with this car: Eco, Comfort, or Dynamic. You turn the ESC in a sport mode, so it's not totally off, but it's in less restrictive setting. We can turn all of our aids on and off. I guess you can see all of the things that it offers there. You quickly pull up your camera, and then you can also fold down the rear headrests electronically, which is pretty awesome. You turn on and off the wireless phone charger, which I'll show you that in just a minute. And there's various other things that you can turn on and off. Over here we have all of the different sources for the radio and media. And then you can see we also have the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, things like that. You can also swap from the top and get your settings. So that's pretty cool on things that you can configure there. And then at the bottom, we have the climate control. So if we turn it on, you can see the fan speeds down below. You pick where the air comes out, and some various other settings right there, such as defrosters, AC, things like that. And you can pull up the temperatures to either side like so, and sync them at the top if you'd like. It's a pretty simple screen, no hidden features or anything like that. Just a pretty easy to get used to screen there. We have a small array of buttons and knobs down below. We have the hazards, defrosters, and the volume knob right in the center. Very nice. We have one sort of forwardmost little cubby right here where you can put pencils and pens. So that's the 12-volt power outlet. And then we have a pretty large storage console that has the wireless charging pad and 2 cup holders. 8-speed transmission, automatic transmission for this car, and you can choose between front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Obviously this one being all-wheel drive since we're up here in the Northeast. But it's worth noting that if you get a B5 model, you can choose between front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Now when you get the T8, that comes standard with all-wheel drive only. Pretty neat gear selector though. You can kind of see right through it. It's hollow, and it's pretty neat. And the way it works is you kind of just bump it down into drive twice, and you could bump it up into neutral, up into reverse. So that's pretty neat. Each movement kind of requires this little bump action here. But as far as the reversing camera goes, it's very nice quality, and you also get guidance lines. You could zoom in and turn off various features from that same screen. And then to put it in park, just press the P right here. You of course have the start-stop knob as you saw earlier, electronic parking brake right here, and an auto hold feature. Nice armrest, and a pretty good amount of space in the center console with 2 USB inlets. Glove box has a pretty good amount of space in it, and it's all illuminated and lined in felt. We have an auto dimming, frameless, and garage door opener mirror. Some SOS and some service controls and things like that. We have LED illumination, of course, and we also have pretty nice oversized sunroof. So there's 2 separate panes to it, and one control to control the shade and the roof. So once you open that up, it's a pretty good size roof for a small sedan like this. Obviously, only the front portion opens up, and you could either vent it or slide it back like so. So that's pretty neat. A couple other things worth mentioning before we get this car out on the road are the visors. So we have that. They also fold out to extend onto the side, and you also have the mirrors and lights. This car also has a pretty cool little feature there, and instead of having a grab handle for the driver, you have an eyeglass holder. So take a look at that. Pretty neat. But that's enough of the features on the exterior and the interior. Let's get it out on the road. Alrighty, driving the 22 Volvo S60 B5. So a little overview of this drive before we get going. Close the windows so we get rid of the wind noise. So we're gonna take a little ride down here to the end of the cul-de-sac, and we'll test out the turning circle, which I expected to be pretty good. You know, usually cars of this size, you're able to get around pretty well. Then we're going to get the car out onto a sort of more main road, like a 2-way highway. We'll see what it sounds like, feels like at that speed, sort of 45-50 miles an hour. We'll also get it onto a straight road where we can test out the acceleration. I usually do sort of like a 25 roll onto 60 to see how fast we can get up to 60, see how the transmission responds and everything like that. And to end off our route, we will go onto a back road with some good corners, and also it's pretty bumpy road, so we'll get a good test of how the suspension feels. So now that we're on the sort of main road, about 45 right now, and it's very quiet in here. We do have a little bit bigger wheels with smaller sidewalls, but so far it seems to be soaking up the bumps just fine, and it's a very comfortable ride. The steering is on the softer side definitely, but has a nice ratio to it. I really like looking at this steering wheel because of the sort of off-white design or color to it. Gives it a really good look. Really premium feeling in here too. Just you know, the whole dash layout in the center console of this car. So yeah, a little bit of tire noise, a little bit of wind noise coming from the mirrors, but that is totally normal, and it is definitely on the quieter side, up on the higher speeds. So at this point, we're gonna take a left onto this back road here, and that's where we're gonna test out the acceleration. So like I said earlier, we're We're gonna have it in the normal mode, since the high performance mode really doesn't do a whole lot in this car. We get up to 25, mash the throttle, and see how fast we can get to 60. So yeah, the B5 power plant does just fine. I'm a little bit surprised that this year Volvo took away the addition of their 2-liter turbocharged and supercharged motor, which they used to call the T6. But honestly, this is, I mean, 260 horsepower is kind of no joke in a car of this size. It's a really good amount of power for this car, and it shows. It definitely shows. So you'll have no problem with acceleration on this car. Front wheel drive or all wheel drive is of course available with the B5, like I said earlier. And then the all wheel drive will come standard with the T8 powertrain, which is a completely different review in and of itself. It's just totally a different car. The lane keeping assist is doing a pretty good job. If you could see the little symbol in there, if I start to get out of my lane, it will light up yellow and kind of gently steer me back into the lane. So you steer off a little bit. See, it gently steers me back. And you can, of course, turn that off within the infotainment system if you like. Sometimes it does get a little bit annoying. However, this one seems to be a not so intrusive system. You know, some of them, they're very forceful at keeping you in the lane. If you're kind of going around a city bus or someone walking on the road, that could be a little bit nerve-wracking. It's kind of forcing you towards that city bus or something like that. But this is not, you know, that sort of system. It's a very subtle sort of force in the steering wheel, turning you back. This car does handle pretty flat, I have to say, for being a comfortable suspension car. And speaking of the suspension, this is pretty much the roughest part of this road. And it is super comfy over these bumps. I'm kind of surprised because, again, we have the 19-inch wheels with some pretty small sidewalls. But this is a very, very comfortable suspension. Extremely comfortable. You know, you definitely hear the bumps, but you don't really feel them. It's pretty shocking. So they definitely did a very good job with suspension setup on this car. The 8-speed transmission too reacts just fine. It's a very seamless shifting transmission, and as you saw when I hit the pedal, it changed up almost immediately and got us in the right gear and shot us off. One more thing I'd like to mention on this car too is Volvo does a really good job with their seats in offering a few different options of seating choices. So of course the Momentum, the base trim, you'll get the base seats, which are plenty comfortable. They have plenty of range of motion with the two-way lumbar, and you can pick up the front of the cushion and put the front of the cushion up and down, I should say. I have a tough time speaking English today, I guess. But so yeah, plenty of range of motions for the base seat. But once you step it up to the Inscription, that kind of takes it to a whole new luxurious level. You got four-way lumbar, and certain packages I believe you get massaging, cooling, and you also get thigh extenders. And for me, thigh extenders are pretty big because on kind of longer journeys, my legs tend to get tired, so I kind of like that leg extensions. Now these base seats do a pretty good job of keeping my legs pretty comfy, but just something to consider with the the Momentum versus Inscription as far as the seat designs go. I believe the R design also has that extension on the with your thigh support there. Yeah, so that pretty much does it for the drive and overview of the 2022 Volvo S60 in the Momentum trim. Pretty good car overall. I do really like this car as far as the design and the kind of the new technology that they brought into this car for 2022. And a lot of that stuff is shared with other Volvo models, or will be getting integrated into the rest of the Volvo lineup, such as the mild hybrid setup and the new infotainment screens that we don't see yet in the S60, but we do see in the XC40 Recharge and XC60, like I said earlier. So yeah, very solid car for 2022. It looks a little bit better, has a little bit of a power boost and efficiency boost, so that's all good things for me. Let me know what you guys think about this car in the comments section, and make sure to stay with us here at Ty Drives for more videos just like this one.